2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 1. After the death of Saul, David returned from his victory over the Amalekites and spent 2 days in Ziklag. Verse 2. On the 3rd day, a man arrived from Saul's army camp. He had torn his clothes and put dirt on his head to show that he was in mourning. He fell to the ground before David in deep respect. Verse 3. Where have you come from? David asked. I escaped from the Israelite camp. The man replied. Verse 4. What happened? David demanded. Tell me how the battle went. The man replied. Our entire army fled from the battle. Many of the men are dead, and Saul and his son Jonathan are also dead. Verse 5. How do you know Saul and Jonathan are dead? David demanded of the young man. Verse 6. The man answered, I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, and there was Saul leaning on his spear, with the enemy chariots and charioteers closing in on him. Verse 7. When he turned and saw me, he cried out for me to come to him. How can I help you? I asked him. Verse 8. He responded, Who are you? I am an Amalekite, I told him. Verse 9. Then he begged me, Come over here and put me out of my misery, for I am in terrible pain and want to die. Verse 10. So I killed him, the Amalekite told David, for I knew he couldn't live. Then I took his crown and his armband, and I have brought them here to you, my lord. Verse 11. David and his men tore their clothes in sorrow when they heard the news. Verse 12. They mourned and wept and fasted all day for Saul and his son Jonathan, and for the lost army and the nations of Israel, because they had died by the sword that day. Verse 13. Then David said to the young man who had brought the news, Where are you from? And he replied, I am a foreigner, an Amalekite, who lives in your land. Verse 14. Why were you not afraid to kill the lost anointed one? David asked. Verse 15. Then David said to one of his men, Kill him. So the man thrust his sword into the Amalekite and killed him. Verse 16. You have condemned yourself, David said, for you yourself confessed that you killed the lost anointed one. Verse 17. Then David composed a funeral song for Saul and Jonathan. Verse 18. And he commanded that it be taught to the people of Judah. It is known as the Song of the Bow, and it is recorded in the book of Jasher. Verse 19. Your pride and joy, O Israel, lies dead on the hills. Oh, how the mighty heroes have fallen. Verse 20. Don't announce the news in Gath. Don't proclaim it in the street of Ashkelon. All the daughters of Philistines will rejoice, and the pagans will laugh in triumph. Verse 21. O mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew or rain upon you, nor fruitful fields producing offerings of grain. For there the shield of the mighty heroes was defiled. The shield of Saul will no longer be anointed with oil. Verse 22. The bow of Jonathan was powerful, and the sword of Saul did its mighty work. They shed the blood of their enemies and pierced the bodies of mighty heroes. Verse 23. How beloved and gracious were Saul and Jonathan. They were together in life and in death. They were swifter than eagles, stronger than lions. Verse 24. O women of Israel, weep for Saul, for he dressed you in luxurious scarlet clothing, in garments decorated with gold. Verse 25. Oh, how the mighty heroes have fallen in battle. Jonathan lies dead on the hills. Verse 26. How I weep for you, my brother Jonathan. Oh, how much I loved you, and your love for me was deep, deeper than the love of women. Verse 27. Oh, how the mighty heroes have fallen. Stripped of their weapons, they lie dead. Amen.